It's Ramsey Dewey over here in Shanghai, China. Welcome to another edition of Q&A with the Coach. We have a bunch of questions about Tai Chi, and they're very similar questions, but we're going to read Hannah Prince's question. She says this: Hello, I'm truly sorry to bother you with this. Don't be sorry for asking me questions. That's like my whole thing on Q&A with the Coach. You send questions, and I give you answers. Oh, don't apologize, man. Don't apologize. Own your voice. Own your questions. If you got inquiries, let them be known. Leave your comments. Leave your questions in the comment section down below. But Hannah goes on to say, I'm sure you're incredibly busy. I'm locked down right now in this city of Shanghai. The whole city is locked down, so I'm not as busy as I usually am. I'm generally busy helping my kids with their homework and then strongly relating to this meme with the monkeys. Yeah, that's basically my life right now. But Hannah goes on to say, but you are the only person I can think of who might be able to help with this. For years now, albeit with no understanding of the art, I've been interested in learning Tai Chi, but have never fully committed to doing so. Having finally decided to begin training, and having since started watching a lot of martial arts YouTubers, I was heartbroken to learn that it wasn't actually usable in a real fight. Until hearing your story of fighting a master, which restored my sense of hope in maybe being able to learn it in a functional way as a form of grappling. But that's where I'm stuck. Unlike karate, taekwondo, Wing Chun, and Bagua, thanks for your videos, by the way, I can't seem to find any examples of it actually working online. Not from people who cross-train in more functional arts like boxing, who can confirm what parts of it actually work and how to apply it. More than most arts, Mcdojos seem to be omnipresent, at least here in the States, and I find it hard to bring myself to learn the forms I've seen online without knowing whether they are authentic or what their application might be, let alone whether I'm doing them right. I don't plan to fight in MMA and hopefully never get into a situation where I would use it for self-defense, but still deeply want to learn it, to help with its reputation within the martial arts community and to assist in its cultural preservation, if nothing else. I don't mind if it takes years to master, but would like advice on how to get there. Do you know of any authentic and combat-effective educators online who know and teach Tai Chi? Is there a point to trying to learn its forms without any guarantee of getting use from them in combat? And finally, would it just be wiser to try to learn an art like judo or wrestling, and then reverse engineer Tai Chi from the basic concepts I research about it online? Since I will likely be cross-training in something else with sparring for self-defense anyway. Sorry once again to bother you with it, but you are the only person I know of who clearly knows how to fight and actually knows what effective Tai Chi looks like. Thank you so much for your time and for your videos. You've been a great inspiration. Hey, thank you for the question. Hannah, if you don't know what Hannah was talking about, I had an experience about a decade ago in Jiangsu province, China, in the city of Zhejiang. And I met this man named Wu Dao Shui. I don't know if that was a nickname or his real given name, but it literally means fish follows water. And he was a master of Taijiquan. There are essentially two main branches of Taiji. Taijiquan, which is unarmed combat, and Taijin with a sword. What is a jin? Let me show you. Let me show you what a jin is. This is a jin. It's a sword. Taijin is sword fighting. And there are multiple different schools of Taiji, multiple different traditions, and multiple different sets of Taiji forms based on either hand-to-hand combat or sword fighting. And so when you see a lot of these weird-looking movements in Tai Chi where they've got their hands in these weird shapes and they're swooping around like this, you might look at that and think, that doesn't look anything like real fighting. Well, newsflash, most of it, the overwhelming majority of Taijiquan is grappling, which confuses people because chuan means fist in Chinese. It means fist, literally. Figuratively, it refers to unarmed combat, whether or not that unarmed combat style involves punching with your fist or not. The fist in Chinese culture is a symbol of concentration and focus and unarmed combat specifically. And there's a ton of symbolism in traditional Chinese, such as the palm fist salute, or this particular palm fist salute. This is like thank you. This is at your service specifically. So anyway, we are digressing. Tai Chi, Taijiquan, the unarmed combat aspect is grappling. Now, I'm going to give you an unpopular but very, very honest opinion about this. When you said reverse engineering the forms by learning a practical combat sport first, and then making a study of Tai Chi, guess what? Master Wu Dao Shui, that's exactly what he did as well. As a young man, he trained in praying mantis kung fu. Now, a lot of people train in Tonglong. No, Tonglong, that's cockroach. Dang, how do you say it? Or did I get that wrong? I'm blanking on my Chinese. Anyway, praying mantis kung fu. Remind me how to say praying mantis and cockroach in the comments down below. I'm blanking on those two words. They both have lung, the same character in both of them. And it confuses me sometimes. Anyway, he trained in praying mantis kung fu, which back in the day was a serious, hard style of kung fu where people would fight, and he engaged in fighting competitions, got in some brawls, and so on. The man knew how to fight, like he was a legitimate fighter. He knew how to strike, he knew how to grapple, he knew what was up as far as practical fighting goes. And also at an early age, he began a study of Taijiquan. And I asked him, after he kicked my butt in sparring, like he kicked my butt, he moved around me pretty effortlessly, out-grappled me, threw me around, got me in some joint locks, and impressed me quite a lot. You know, super strong, super athletic, even at an advanced age. And I asked him, how long did it take you to master Tai Chi? And he said, oh, about 80 years. I'm like, wait a minute, you're 80 years old. He's like, yeah, exactly. It's a lifetime pursuit is what he was trying to say there. So he essentially did that. He practiced fighting. He learned how to fight. He got into scraps. He got into brawls. He got into competition. He knew what force against force in the physical universe felt like. He wasn't playing make-believe or anything like that. He wasn't LARPing like a lot of practitioners of Chinese traditional martial arts seem to do these days, which gives it a bad name. And at the same time, he's learning Tai Chi. And he's learning the forms, and he's mastering the forms, but he's also grappling. Every day this man would grapple with his students. Every day they would meet outside of the Zhenjiang vinegar factory. It's a famous factory here in China that makes some of the most sought-after vinegar in the country. Chinese people love their vinegar, man. They do. They love to eat it with all kinds of things. Dumplings, vegetables, chu cai, whatever you want. They put vinegar on it. It's good. They make good vinegar at that factory. Anyway, that's a big aside. But that's where they would train, at this patio courtyard area with stone tiles outside the vinegar factory. And they would grapple, and he wanted to spar with me, and he had no problem throwing down, no problem being his own gym enforcer, if you will. Because he was good at it. He knew exactly what he was doing. It wasn't mystical magic power like a lot of people want you to believe Tai Chi is. It's wrestling. It's judo. It's jujitsu. It's the clinch game and the sweeps from Muay Thai. All of these techniques you see in these live combat sports are part of the syllabus of Taijiquan. That shocks people. I know, because they wanted it to be something else. The way Tai Chi is represented in video games and movies is, quite frankly, ridiculous. It's ridiculous. If you play a game like Dead or Alive, a couple of the characters practice Tai Chi, and what do? They do these big swooping punches and kicks and stuff, and that's not Tai Chi. Tai Chi is grappling. It is an ancient style of Chinese folk wrestling, is what it is. So you see movements like reaching out like this. What is this? It's pummeling for a collar tie and a bicep tie-up and doing a snap down. You got arm drags, you got duck unders, you've got leg drags and ankle picks and arm bars and wrist locks and all this other stuff. It's all of these movements, all of these practical fighting techniques, you will learn these in live combat sports training. You will learn them in a wrestling room. You will learn them in a jiu-jitsu academy. You will learn them in a Thai boxing gym. You will learn them in a judo dojo. And you'll probably learn them a whole lot better than you will at the overwhelming majority, probably all of the current existing Tai Chi schools out there. I've seen a lot of videos people have sent me after telling this story about training with Master Wu. And they've said, hey, what do you think of this guy? He's a popular Tai Chi teacher on the internet. Is he legit? And I watch what they do, and I'm like, this guy doesn't know how to fight. And so what we have is an example of the blind leading the blind. And maybe they're preserving the forms and some cultural traditions and some ideologies, but they're not teaching you how to fight. And that's an important distinction. This is one of the main problems of traditional martial arts. When you have people who don't know how to fight teaching traditional martial arts, which happens constantly. Today, it probably happens more often than not. People who don't know how to fight teaching traditional martial arts, and they say, well, it's okay because we're not fighters and we're not training fighters. We are simply passing on a cultural tradition. Well, guess what? The cultural tradition was combat. It was the cultural tradition of the art of war, the skill of combat. That is literally what martial arts means. What does Taijiquan mean? It literally means the highest form of combat, the highest form of martial arts, the highest form of unarmed combat. Taijiquan means the highest form of sword fighting. And if you have a guy who doesn't know how to fight with his hands and he doesn't know how to fight with a sword, he definitely doesn't know the highest form of hand-to-hand combat, and he certainly doesn't know the highest form of sword fighting. So why the heck would you go to one of those guys to learn either of those things? It's become a bit of a joke that we have this martial art that is literally called the highest form of fighting, which has been degraded to essentially the lowest form of martial arts training, the blind leading the blind. So do I know of any schools that go by the name of Tai Chi that I can point you toward, or people on the internet who are doing this the right way, who can teach you how to fight? No, I don't. I mean, I've broken down some Tai Chi forms on my channel and shown you how I integrate some of these techniques into my style, but also how you can learn these things, how they're being taught by wrestling coaches like Kerry Kolot, for example, or Muay Thai coaches like Rakchan and Sinsub, or judo coaches like Shintaro Higashi. These guys, they wouldn't consider themselves Tai Chi masters. I don't know if they've ever practiced a Tai Chi form in their lives, but if you want to learn the live art of Taijiquan, the highest form of hand-to-hand combat, you better get out there and train in hand-to-hand combat and do it for real and take it seriously. And the same thing with sword fighting, man. If you want to learn the highest form of sword fighting, are you going to learn that from a bunch of LARPers going around just waving swords around for fun, or are you going to do that with somebody who actually knows how to win a sword duel? Not a lot of those guys left in the world, but there are a lot of historical European martial arts guys and even some historical Asian martial arts guys out there who have preserved traditions like that and know what they're doing. It's one of my favorite channels on YouTube. The Hema Nerds are going to wet their pants over this probably. The Society of Historical Fencing. I love those guys. Those guys are awesome. I especially like it. Why? Why do I love those guys specifically? Because they're always sparring. They're getting out there and training live. They're doing it for real. They're not just pontificating over what some dead dude said 400 years ago in an old German codex about what probably might work. They're trying to figure it out. They're doing it live. And they're sparring, with their sabers and their rapiers and their English longswords and their spears and their katanas and everything else they can get their hands up on, and mixing and matching different fighting styles and historical weapons together in these duels and sparring sessions. And it's great. It's awesome. Multiple opponents too. It's fun. It's a very fun and informative channel. I love those guys and what they put out. So shout out to the Society of Historical Martial Arts. Those guys are doing more to achieve the highest form of sword fighting, Taijiquan, if you will, than most people who practice under the banner of Tai Chi. You go to any mixed martial arts school, any serious grappling school, these guys are doing more to promote the reality of the highest form of hand-to-hand combat, the real Taijiquan, than anybody these days who's putting on a 1950s era Chinese button-up shirt with the knot buttons and calling themselves a sifu or a shifu. There's so much nonsense out there in the world of martial arts. So let's look past the nonsense. If you want to learn how to fight, yeah, do that. And exactly like you said, and exactly as Master Wu did himself, reverse engineer it. It's what I've done too, man. Learned how to fight first, got into the scraps, trained in combat sports, and then I met this master of Tai Chi, and then my eyes were open to the forms. Heck yes, this is what this means. This is how you integrate this, and this is a way I can do shadow wrestling in an efficient, space-saving area, even in a small room, to practice these techniques over and over and over again, and now I can visualize it. Anytime you do a form, shadow boxing, shadow wrestling, work out with a heavy bag or a speed bag or whatever, it is imperative that you visualize. It is imperative you visualize the fight, what you're doing, what your opponent's doing. Right? It's not enough just to do a kata and a form like, why the heck are you doing an upward block? Do you know? Okay? There are several valid reasons why you might do an upward block, which isn't really a block, in a fight. There are reasons for that. But if you don't know what those reasons are, it's not going to help you to go through a form and do that movement. If you're doing this movement in Tai Chi, you're supposed to pull it down toward the abdomen, but hands come together like this, and you pull it down almost like some people think you're making chi energy balls. I'm going to throw a Hadouken. No, you're catching a kick being thrown at you. You're catching a front kick or a side kick. You're catching a linear attack, and then you're going to throw and sweep the guy. You have to be able to visualize these things. You're reaching, you're pulling, you're reaching, you're pulling, you're pummeling, and you're going for a snap down, arm drag, etc. You're doing the cloud hands movement. What is that? Is it just a weird, funky move with a funky name for the sake of funkiness? No. Hand fighting, grappling, get the arm drag, get behind the guy, hit the guy, take him down, whatever you want to do from that angled position. But unless you have the context of experience with real fighting, none of it makes sense. None of it. This holds true for Tai Chi, it holds true for karate, taekwondo, any martial art that has forms. Any of them. So get to training and then reverse engineer those forms, and you're going to have a lot of light bulb moments, which are fantastic. So I think forms are great, and it's important to remember them and preserve them. And, I don't want to poo-poo on the nerds who don't fight too much, because they've actually done the world a great favor by preserving those forms. I was looking back at some of the Kyokushin forms a while back, because I wanted to remember, man, it's been so long since I've done karate forms and taekwondo forms consistently, I couldn't remember what they were, and I remember thinking, I have a vague recollection of this one movement, I don't remember if you turn here or not, and I want to know, because I think I can reverse engineer this. I think I understand what this movement is for now, through the context of actual fight experience. So I looked up on the internet a bunch of nerds who've probably never fought before doing some forms, and they presented them correctly and accurately, and all of a sudden, boom, light bulb moments. Now I know what that's for. Now I understand what the cross blocks are for and how to use them in a fight and how to set up some really cool stuff and some arm locks and throws and whatnot. It's not a block. You're not blocking an axe kick with that stuff, man. Can't wait for the gyms to open up again here in Shanghai so I can get out there with my training partners and show some of this stuff to you guys. It's fascinating to me, doing some karate bunkai or some breakdowns of Taolu, of the kung fu forms, etc. So, yeah, reverse engineer your forms, but you can't do that till you get out there and train and learn how to fight. Speaking of which, thank you for watching. Now get out there and train.